Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Today we're going to talk about the 1996 Varginha, Brazil alien incident where a lot of people saw a UFO falling from the sky as well as alien creatures running around the streets. Apparently there was a cover-up. James Fox, as we all know, back in 2022 released a very, very good documentary called Moment of Contact, which I talked about here on the show before. But today there was a really interesting Reddit post that I came across. It was on the subreddit Aliens, and it was from somebody who goes by the handle of Red2Lucas, and he has a new theory. And I thought this theory was worthy of discussion and worthy of something to think about, actually. Anyway, the post headline reads, "Varginha wasn't a new species; it was just a gray dying in our atmosphere." And as we all know, that in that case there was something. People reported a UFO. Some people saw something crashing outside of town in some field somewhere, and then afterward there were numerous witnesses who said they saw alien creatures. This was all these things were discussed in James Fox's documentary, by the way. And of course, we've been reading about this for decades now. It's almost hard to believe 1996 is almost 30 years ago. It seems like yesterday to me. A lot of time the older you get, I'll tell you what, wow, it feels like time picks up. It's almost like you're dropped off a cliff, at the beginning of life, and as the closer you get to the end of it, it feels like time just picks up. It's the same way as if you're falling. The more you fall, the further you fall, the quicker you speed up, and that's what it feels like. Time is just spinning away wildly. But anyway, getting back to the point here, I think that this is a very interesting little theory that he posted here. Let's talk about it. He says, okay, so I've been reading a lot about the Varginha incident from Brazil in 1996, and I think people overcomplicate it. You've got one camp saying it was a brand new alien species with oily brown skin, red eyes, horns, stench, etc., and the other camp saying it was just some homeless guy. Here's my thought. What if it was neither? What if it was just a regular gray, only it had survived a crash and was literally dying in our atmosphere? Think about the details. Red eyes. Witnesses said they looked inflamed, bulging, bloodshot. If those classic big black lenses we hear about are actually some kind of natural protective covering, maybe they just got damaged in the crash. What you'd see underneath is raw, irritated tissue, hence the glowing red look. And then he goes on to talk about the oily brown skin. Not its true skin color, but a reaction. Imagine amphibian skin drying out and secreting fluids to compensate. Add in infection, ultraviolet light, Earth's bacteria equals patchy, discolored, gross. Then he talks about posture and behavior. It wasn't levitating or striding around like a science fiction alien. It was crouched, weak, sluggish. Classic signs of trauma, shock, or simply not coping with our environment. And then the smell, the sulfur, ammonia stench was widely reported. That could have been metabolic breakdown, basically the body rotting while still alive, or chemical secretions meant to defend against microbes. And don't forget, this thing had supposedly crashed. Who knows what injuries it had from that alone? Blunt force trauma, broken bones, internal bleeding. Even with no atmosphere issues, it might not have lived long. To me, this actually makes the whole case more believable. Instead of adding a random new species into the mix, it ties Varginha back to the existing gray archetype. Same species, just one that was out of its life support environment and falling apart in real time. That also explains why it didn't survive long and why it looks so different compared to the neat, clinical Roswell gray. I haven't really seen anyone else push this angle. Has anyone come across research or discussion that frames Varginha this way? And I'm going to leave a link to this Reddit post. You got to check it out. There was a lot of really interesting comments on here. And there were some links that were provided, including there was somebody named Woodaman who provided this link here that talks about a breakdown on what might have been going on with these beings. Let's check that out. And this was from 2 years ago. It says the hypothesis: the reported Varginha creatures were oxidizing ammonia-based life forms. Yeah, a lot of reports, as we know, some of these creatures they give off this ammonia scent, and here was a hypothesis with regard to that. It says, after watching the new documentary on the Varginha UFO case, Moment of Contact, there was a particular set of consistently reported characteristics about the crash site and creatures that I found extremely curious and caused me to do some deeper digging. Those particularly reported points include a crash site with a strong ammonia-like odor and what appeared to be a chemical fire surrounding the debris, 2 live creatures that made their way into the town proper and that left a strong ammonia-like scent that did not go away with cleaning and lingered for many days. The creatures had bulbous red eyes, not quite blood red, the mother reported. There was a mother of some children that saw the creature hanging out in the street. We all saw that famous drawing. Also, it says here, the creatures had dark, nearly black skin. The creatures possessed some kind of extremely oily skin, as reported by many of the witnesses. Many of the witnesses reported the creatures as very scared and cowering. The fire department reported the creature they captured was crying like a baby. The police officer subduing the creature easily and dying weeks later from some unknown purported infection. We'll get into the whole story later on, but there was one police officer that apparently died after touching this thing with his bare hands. Anyway, it says here with regard to that, it says the officer, one aspect I found fascinating was that the officer that handled one of the creatures died weeks later. Several individuals close to him watched as this apparent rash took over his body, apparently reduced his immune system, and ultimately led to his death at the local hospital. His girlfriend wife never received final documents surrounding the mysterious illness, and the medical records were likely confiscated. This caused me to speculate, what if this infection was more of a toxic poisoning rather than some alien virus or bacterium? That could be possible. And then he talks about the ammonia smell. The intense, lingering smell of ammonia was a consistently reported theme surrounding this case. It was present intensely both at the crash site as well as following each creature. The small was quite malodorous and seemed to cover a large area. The smell was quite malodorous and seemed to cover a large area. Was there some relationship to the odor, the apparent craft, and the surrounding chemical fire? I think that these beings, I just want to stop there for a second. I think that they, a lot of people think that they don't defecate the way we do, and perhaps they defecate through their skin, and it gives off this ammonia scent, and that's one of the theories that we've talked about before. Anyway, he goes on to talk about the oily skin and very black skin. The anonymous military testimony saw the legs of the creature in a first-hand encounter. He even retorted in a past recollection to something inquiring to him that it looked like a burnt human body. All witnesses mentioned oily skin or that appeared to be sweating and in distress. The officer who died also apparently was in contact with this substance, and it rubbed off on his skin. Could the oily skin be some kind of toxic substance? Who knows? Anyway, getting on with what really happened in Brazil. There was a pretty good article here that was actually posted last year on all that's interesting, and we're going to read through this. So for people that are not familiar with this case, it says here, the headline reads, "Inside the Varginha UFO incident when multiple people reported witnessing extraterrestrial phenomena in Brazil." It says here, several residents of a town in Brazil claimed that their city was overrun with aliens in 1996 and that the government covered it up. But is there any proof? Well, yeah, I think there's proof. I think the proof I'm going to stop there for a second. The proof is this. There were just too many witnesses. Too many people reported seeing these creatures. And by the way, I just want to point out that I was using ChatGPT to try to give me different, more realistic images of this creature. Like here's right now, I have on the screen a famous drawing that was represents what some of the witnesses saw, and then I had ChatGPT provided another one. Now the only really difference in this, the ChatGPT version, AI generated image, is that the crown of bumps that you see in the original one that was reported by a lot of the witnesses, they're not there, but it looks pretty much the same. And then I actually had I had AI give me a what if a gray, actual healthy gray, was in the same position, and you could see by looking at these images that, yeah, this could have been a gray that was just, beat up from the crash, dying. It's, oily skin, the stink, all of it, the red eyes, just like this guy's saying, that could have been a gray alien. I mean, that's basically what we're talking about here, right? I mean, most people report the gray aliens, but in this instance, there was a crash. And who knows, they were probably trying to figure out what they're going to do. They knew their lives were probably over. They didn't know what to do. Maybe they were hoping for the cavalry to come to save them, and it just apparently never happened for them. And they're roaming around the streets, and eventually at least one of them was picked up. And actually, if you remember, James Fox talked about how it looks like a lot of these materials and the beings were apparently shipped away. The Brazil authorities handed them off to apparently United States military authorities, just like I've been talking about in the previous show, where it seems like all these different countries are all working together on this to keep it a secret from the masses, and that apparently seems that what happened here in Virginia for sure. But anyway, let's get on with this article here. It says, in January 1996, 3 young witnesses between the ages of 14 and 22 claimed to have seen something strange in Varginha, Brazil. They said they had seen a small hairless creature with oily brown skin, a large head, and red eyes, and they referred to it as a devil. In the days that followed, several other residents would come forward, claiming that they too had witnessed something not of this world. These eerie phenomena would soon become known as the Varginha UFO incident. As rumors swirled, the details became murkier and more outrageous. Some claimed to have seen UFOs flying through the skies, while others alleged that extraterrestrials were being rounded up by the military and placed under investigation at a local hospital. The government denied all of these reports. The strange creature the 3 young witnesses had seen, according to an official investigation, that was just a homeless man named Mudinho. The alien seen at the hospital, nothing more than an expectant couple with dwarfism. Wow. Imagine people trying to pawn these kind of explanations off to people. They think we're stupid. I'm just going to stop here for a second. All these people, officials in all these different countries that are complicit in this cover-up, they just think people are just really stupid. And you know what? Some of us are, because some of us don't think about this. When they hear this, it was just dwarfs. These people were stupid that saw that. It's just constant. And just throughout the decades, it makes you mad hearing these kinds of stories, these kinds of idiotic excuses, even though you have multiple witnesses saying something different than what they're saying here, what authorities tell you. It's such an insult to intelligence, folks, such an insult. Anyway, continuing, it says, today the city of Varginha, much like Roswell, leans heavily into the story of its infamous UFO experience, selling Varginha alien dolls and even adorning a water tower with a UFO-shaped saucer. There are those, however, who insist it was all true to this very day, and I believe strongly. Let me tell you something. I believe very strongly that this really did happen, and I believe it really did involve extraterrestrial or non-human intelligent beings for sure. Too many witnesses. Anyway, continuing here, it says, initial witness reports about a strange creature in Varginha. On January 20th, 1996, 2 sisters, Liliane and Valquiria Silva, and their friend Katia Andrade were walking across a vacant lot in the city of Varginha, Brazil. There, they suddenly came across a strange creature crouching in the weeds. It stood about 4 feet tall, they said, with massive red eyes and a disproportionately large head crowned with 3 bumps. They also noted something peculiar about the creature, its foul smell. This creature, the witnesses claimed, appeared sad, and just as frightened of them as they were of it. Terrified, they ran home, and the sisters reportedly told their mother they had seen the devil. And look at these drawings that these kids provided. Look at that. That's what they said they saw. There's 2 different people, 2 different drawings. This was some documentary. But look at that. Look at that. That's not some homeless person laying in the gutter. That's not that. That's not somebody suffering with dwarfism. That's an insult to people with dwarfism. Anyway, continuing here, it says it wasn't a man or an animal, it was something different, Andrade said, according to a 1996 article in the Wall Street Journal. The news of this strange ET quickly spread around town, and in its wake, more information came to light. What the young women hadn't realized at the time was that theirs was not the only sighting of this creature or the craft it allegedly came out of. More reports surface of alien and UFO sightings. And a week before the Brazil alien sighting, a pilot by the name of Carlos Souza claimed to have seen a strange cigar-shaped object about the size of a school bus flying above Varginha. As he watched, he noted that it was losing altitude and appeared to be emitting white smoke. Believing it to be an aircraft in trouble, according to a 2022 News.com article, he followed its trajectory and watched it arrive in an open field. There, he allegedly found metal debris littering the ground and a foul stench in the air like rotten eggs. Then he claimed the area was swarmed by military personnel who forced him to leave the scene. Okay, let's just stop there again. Again, this is a cover-up. There's absolutely no question that something crashed in Varginha, Brazil. Too many witnesses. Their military personnel show up, make them leave the scene, just similar to other incidents like the Kecksburg incident right here in Pennsylvania back in 1965, which I believe firmly had to deal with extraterrestrial craft. That's what that was. I mean, there's no... What else is it? It wasn't some satellite. All those people... Well, that's another story for another day. Anyway, getting back to this. Yeah, continuing with the article. On the morning of January 20th, just hours before the creature was spotted, a couple living nearby allegedly observed a similar craft flying through the sky. They claimed it looked as though it had sustained significant damage to its fuselage, and it was heading toward the city. It says, shortly after, residents in the Jardim Ondiri neighborhood called emergency services to report that a strange animal had been seen running through the streets. According to a translated article, a construction worker claimed to have seen authorities trap the creature inside a wooden box and take it away. Okay, authorities took it away. Military people, so there was a military presence there, telling people to get out of this area. You can't, you're not allowed to go in this area. We'll take care of this. Don't say anything. That kind of stuff. And then they, other people, construction worker says he saw other authorities taking this creature away in a wooden box. Just again, folks, too many witnesses. You have to be. Let me just say this: you have to be really stupid, naive, dumb. Every word that means dumb to not understand what's going on here. That's what's going on. If you don't realize what happened in Varginha, Brazil in 1996, I'm afraid you're really stupid, and you probably get about a 10 on a intelligence test. Anyway, continuing. Around 1 p.m., others reported seeing men in military uniforms in town, apparently looking for something. Some claimed they heard shots fired from the men's rifles. About 2 hours later, the Silva sisters and Andrade allegedly spotted the creature. At roughly 5:30 p.m., a 23-year-old police officer named Marco Eli Cherez allegedly caught one of these creatures, grabbing it with his bare hands and ushering it into his car. Witnesses claimed he then drove the creature to a nearby hospital for observation. And there's that famous drawing here they have, again, for us to check out. The creature, which hospital staff denied ever seeing, allegedly died at some point in the night, then was placed on a troop transport truck bound for the weapons sergeant school. On January 23rd, witnesses claimed that a military convoy left Varginha carrying the bodies of extraterrestrials they had collected to be examined by scientists at the State University of Campinas. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly. Campinas. Anyway, once again, authorities denied all of this. Of course they're going to die. They're going to lie to you. They're going to lie to you. They're going to keep lying to you. They always lie to you. That's what they do. The people we put in charge lie to us about the truth about what's going on this planet. They could deal with it, but you can't. They think you're dumb. And if you don't know that there's a cover-up, then you really are dumb. All right. Continuing, it says, the story took one final twist, however, on February 7th when Officer Marco Eli Cherez was hospitalized due to severe pain in his arm and the onset of paralysis. Cherez allegedly underwent surgery to remove an abscess from his armpit, then died days later from generalized infection. Today, some claim that the illness was caused by alien bacteria that transferred to Cherez when he grabbed the creature and put it in his car. However, the official story presented by government officials is far less fantastical. Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute here. But I just want to talk about this police officer. Yeah, was it bacteria? Who knows? Or maybe it was like what this person on Reddit was saying. He was saying that it might have been toxic poisoning. Right, so that's another thing. Who knows? One or the other, touching that alien, I think, led to that police officer's death. I think that's the reason this police officer died in Brazil back in 1996 was because he touched that creature, whatever it was, whether it was bacteria from the creature itself or something else, some toxins that got into him because of that. That's what did it. I don't think it had anything to do with anything else. I think it was because he touched this creature. Anyway, here's when they talk about the official investigation into the Varginha UFO incident. It says, in 2021, there were official documents from the Brazilian army. They were obtained by a news organization regarding the purported Varginha UFO incident. The documents outlined the Brazil government's investigation into the case, particularly the events that took place on January 20th and the allegations that military personnel had captured aliens in Brazil and hidden the evidence. It says here, Lieutenant Colonel Lucio Carlos Pereira, the man in charge of the military police inquiry, claimed that the Silva sisters and Andrade had never seen an extraterrestrial creature at all. Rather, he said, they probably encountered a homeless man, Mudinho, who likely had a mental disorder of some kind. Yeah, 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 it was a mentally deranged homeless guy. Yeah, according to this authority, right? According to this lieutenant colonel. Yeah, okay, yeah, sure, sure. Anyway, continuing. It's possible, Pereira said, that Modino was crouched over as he was often seen in such a position. He was around 30 years old at the time, and he lived near the area where the girls had seen the extraterrestrial. Now, when you look at the drawing, and I don't know, when you look at the drawing of that, and you think about their description, that it's not a person at all. It's again, we're just people being fed lies by authorities, by the people we put in charge. That's what this is. Continuing. As for why residents had seen military vehicles around Virginia at the time, military justice prosecutor Antonio Antero dos Santos said it was all just routine work and that Army trucks had simply left the barracks for, quote, normal maintenance work in a workshop. That's all it was. Nothing going on here, folks. It was just all routine. Nobody was seeing things. That's all crazy talk. That's just my little addition there. With hindsight, even some UFO believers look back at the Virginia UFO incident and say with confidence that it was not real. Not me. Not me. I look back out and I see a bunch of people in the military and law enforcement lying to people. That's what I see when I look back at it. And I see a bunch of people who don't realize what really happened there. I look at them and I say, wow, they're really stupid and dumb. Anyway, continuing, lawyer and ufologist Uberjara Rodriguez, for example, testified during the investigation. There is no proof that an extraterrestrial being was captured in Virginia. People said that they touched an extraterrestrial, but this does not serve as scientific proof. At that time, our tendency was to believe that it was a being from another planet. Okay, let me just stop here for a second. Okay, now what if all those witnesses that said they saw an alien being said they saw some person, like maybe that homeless guy, Modino, right, shoot someone in broad daylight on the street? Would Modino be thrown in prison for the rest of his life? Yeah, probably, right? So why not? That same group of people are telling you that, no, this was not a human being, whatever it was, and it stunk like ammonia. It was rotten, the smell. And plus, there was no way it was human. It looked like the devil to us. You know, it's hard, you know, when they cover things up like that. Yeah, it's easy for them to say these kinds of things because they put you in a position where you really have it's a no-win situation, except now finally we have evidence where there's no way they could wiggle out of it, like I talk about all the time when it comes to when you think about the Las Vegas incident. Anyway, continuing here, it says, but what about the fate of Marco L. Cherez? How could this strange death possibly be explained? The former commander of the 24th Military Police Battalion of Virginia, Maurice Antonio Santos, said this. The death occurred due to a strong hospital infection after the operation. That's all it was. It was something that happened at the hospital, folks. Former soldier Surej was not involved in any incident with extraterrestrials. Well, yeah, you could say that. It's easy to say that when you cover all up and you don't tell people the truth and you take away all the evidence. Right? You put it on a plane and send it to the United States. Anyway, the article continues. It says, of course, there are those out there who still believe something crashed in Virginia that day and that the government investigation was nothing more than a cover-up. Yes, it was nothing more than a cover-up. There's no question in my mind about that. There's just too many people saw things. There's just too many strange aspects to this case. And we know that it's real. We're not alone here. All these people have been lying to you for decades now. And it's embarrassing. It's an embarrassing state of affairs that we are in right now. It has to, you know. And in fact, you know, if you remember that moment of contact, I don't know if it was in that documentary or another documentary that I saw. I remember hearing somebody saying, some official, somebody in authority saying, you don't want this to get out to the world. We can't let the people know about this. What are you talking about? You know about it. What about the rest of us? You know, I just heard Joe Rogan making a statement recently. I guess we had Anna Paulina Luna on the show, and he was saying it's ridiculous that only something to this. I'm just paraphrasing. He was something to the effect that it's ridiculous that only defense contractors get to know about this stuff. Like it's absolutely absurd. I mean, there's something here. There's no question about it. And they're not telling you what they know about it. They're not even acknowledging the reality that there is a non-human intelligent presence on this earth. They won't even go that far. Anyway, I want to talk about something else really quick. I received an email recently from one of my contacts who remains anonymous. I've been dealing with this person for a few years now. He's a retired electronics engineer who did work for the CIA, DARPA, NASA, as well as some defense contractors, and he's really into this whole thing. And he was commenting on one of my recent shows where I was talking about the reason extraterrestrials are here, and he shared this with me. About a false narrative that he doesn't like. He goes, one false narrative often heard is that the aliens are concerned about our use of technology and how it's endangering the planet. The truth is that technology is what gives them the power to control, abduct, and harvest us, and they simply don't want us to catch up and become capable of resistance. If they were really concerned about the Earth's environment or our destructive behavior, they could just land on the White House lawn and give us the kind of friendly help and guidance that would solve all those problems overnight. A related falsehood is that they can't help us because they're not allowed to interfere with our development. Of course, if they feel free to abduct people and stick implants in them, that's certainly a form of interference and a truly horrible one. So, call it colonization, planetary acquisition, invasion, or whatever, but it's similar to the way Europeans just walked in and took over after they arrived in the USA, and it's all possible because of technological empowerment, which allows one group to subjugate and control another. Only this time we're the victim rather than the perpetrator. Have a great day. So that was a point he wanted to make. You know, like I was talking about the different reasons why they're possibly here, and I think that they could be here to colonize the planet. That's probably one of the biggest possibilities, I think, right? Why else would they be here? Why would they be so secretive? And this guy here doesn't think that they're good at all. That's, you know, some people believe some are good, some are bad, whatever. Maybe there are some good ones, I don't know. Some of them do seem friendly according to some of the stories we hear. But overall, it seems like the one group, at least, the Greys, the insectoids, and reptilians, it seems like they're here to take over, and they're up to no good. And this guy thinks that that's like we need to think in those terms. He might be right. I don't really know. I don't really know because the governments know, and I think the reason, you know, the fact that, like I was talking about recently, the fact that they don't tell us anything, that just makes me think that must be really bad. Then there must be something really bad about this. Okay, and I just want to end the show with this. I received a really good comment the other day from one of my subscribers on YouTube, BlackHat856. And this is the message that he said. He goes, get this message out. He goes, the real power in America isn't in Washington, the Pentagon, or Wall Street. It's in the hands of the citizens who go to work every day. The deep state depends entirely on your labor, your money, and your compliance to maintain its grip. If Americans collectively refused to work for just a few days, the system would be forced to act, to answer questions, to reveal the truth about suppressed technologies and missing trillions. Striking is not chaos, it's leverage, a peaceful way to demand transparency, fairness, and a future where energy and opportunity are truly abundant for everyone. So basically the message is here, if we really wanted to get disclosure, if we got everyone on board here in the United States of America, we all go on strike, nobody goes to work, we all shut this whole thing down and tell them that we won't do a damn thing until you start telling us the truth about what you know about UFOs and aliens. And additionally, I like to add a few more things. How about making things better here in this country for people, right? Stop, you know, let's make life easier for people rather than harder. I like to throw that in there too. Anyway, I just want to say this. I want to say thank you all for joining me today. Until next time.